Of course, the Ghostbusters did so well that not only was a cartoon series made for it, but then came the sequel. Good evening, YouTubers of the world. I am the Vigilante, here to bring you another video content and Mega Halloween Mixer. And of course, well, it's only natural that I would talk about the sequel of the Ghostbusters after talking about the first one. And yes, guys, like the other one, the prequel, this one's good too. However, though, not as good as the first one. Bear in mind, I understand what people say about this, how they pretty much repeat everything they did in the first one. And yes, I take note that I still notice that, but I still think this movie was good. It actually had some greatness to it in its own way, such as the court scene or the underground tunnel scenes with some of the Ghostbusters being haunted by spirits in the underground tunnel. Join us. But I think the real maker of it all came from the two main antagonists, named Vigo the Carpathian, and then that weird-looking man known as Janusz, who was the head of the department of where Dana was working at in the Museums of Art, Manhattan's Museum of Arts, I must add to that, which plays an important role in where things take place. But it's funny how it is that Dana plays an even bigger role in this one as well. Or should I say more, her son by the name of Oscar plays a bigger role. That's right, guys. Dana has a boy. I bet you were all wondering when you first saw this, is this Peter's child, since those two were dating at the end? Unfortunately, no. But we can get all into that later here. But once again, I still love this movie. It's not as good as the first one, I admit to that, but it still had its good spots. And having all said that, we must break down what makes this movie so good, along with some of the bad. As I said, they had a repeat of it from the first sequel, such as in the facts. The Ghostbusters were once again nobodies. They were like losers at the very beginning. Then something happened, they're famous again. And just like in the first movie, they are investigating something big. Of course, mind you, things take a little different turn around in there. But then when it came to the final battle, and when the Ghostbusters were really needed, it was like another repeat. But it all was still a nice way to go about things. And not to mention the Ghostbusters got a new member by the name of that dorky person, Lewis Tuttle, I believe his name was, the one who was possessed by one of Gozerian's goblin dogs. even he had his moment to shine in this one. But having now said all that, the movie starts off having happened 5 years after the Ghostbusters took care of business with Gozar. Unfortunately, though, they are out of business. And I seriously be like, why are you guys out of business? Oh, but Winston brought up a good point. Despite everything they did for this city and everything, they were sued for property damage by the counties and everything. I would be mad at that myself. Why? Because Batman does property damage, but he gets off easy. But for the record, he's like me. He's a vigilante. He don't obey by the law. And not to mention, he's a billionaire, so that one kind of counts as something. Having said that, though, unfortunately, these guys aren't billionaires, and they were just known as a bunch of losers then. It really made me mad that a bunch of kids were abusing them, making them be ridiculous. Those kids are lucky they're kids. Even I admit I have my spot where I can't hurt a kid. But I am not that soft to let a kid know the harsh reality of things. Believe that. But having said all that, though, having now come to the fact that they are out of business, they still find a way to live lives. Good on you, boys, because you must always find a way to live. Live to your best and do what you must to get through in this world. That's what I do, for the safety of those I care about. And that is what is right. Moving on, as I said, Dana now has a little boy named Oscar, who plays a very big role in this film because he's actually a key plot point for the main antagonist. And do not worry, we'll be getting to him soon. As for what the whole entire plot revolves around, besides Oscar being one of the key plot points, the other plot point is in the fact that in the beginning, Dana had an accident with her child because a ghost carried her baby and the carriage out into the middle of the streets. That it forced Dana to go to her friends so they could find out what was going on. And mind you, yes, Peter and Dana were reunited and got into their awkwardness of reuniting, but slowly were beginning to get back together and grow a relationship once again. Peter also seems to be a very good person to his, I guess you could say, soon-to-be stepson. Who knows, since we don't really know at the ending of this film. But he definitely pulls it off. I'll give Peter my props, which is no surprise when it comes to Bill Murray. He is always the good man. He is always the sarcastic one and knows how to do his job. And the chemistry between the Ghostbusters never stops here. Having gone on and said that, as they begin to investigate what Dana brought them, they came into an unforeseen circumstance, and the fact that underground, under a tunnel beneath the other tunnel, was an abandoned tunnel, and it was swarming with a river of pink slime. What is a bunch of river of pink slime doing in there? Well, it turns out that energy of pink slime is powered by negative energy. How is that possible, you may wonder? We learn of it when the Ghostbusters are arrested because they cause a blackout during their investigation of that slime, which leads us into that court scene. And must I say, I love the judge. His anger brings out the best in this scene here because no matter what, he just keeps things in control. I believe those Ghostbusters mentioned he is known as the Hammer! Hammer. I like the sound of that. And it really shows why he's the Hammer, because when he says, "Shut up!" he doesn't need to say it twice, or he does when people are getting out of hand. But funny how his anger is what saved the Ghostbusters and made them get back into business and being the big celebrities they were at the end of it, at the big, who am I kidding? I'm saying the prequel of the film is what I meant to say. Sorry, guys. I guess I'm getting a little crazy myself and I'm losing my mind here. Oh, who gives it up? It doesn't matter. What matters is that when his anger was pulsing, so was that slime, a pink slime, because it feeds off negative emotions. And as it kept growing and growing due to the Hammer's anger, pop out a ghost of villains that are known as the Scoleri brothers, the judge knows so well. And like I said, thank you, Judge, for being such a hot-headed maniac fool! You brought us back the Ghostbusters! And I must also admit that before all this happens, once again, Bill Murray, great performance on your role as Peter. As you said the thing that must be said. Shit happens. Go beyond human understanding. That sometimes you are going to need Pacific people for the job because the police, the firemen, the National Guard, they don't have it in them to do it because they don't know what they're dealing with. But you guys do. And that was where you worked your magic. And now, having gone on record with that, it moved on into them discovering more of that slime. An emotional slime it is, but it turns out that slime is connected to the main antagonist of the film, that being Vigo the Carpathian. Believe it or not, he's actually inside of a painting. Yes, guys, the villain is a person inside of a painting. And it turns out in the painting, the man is alive, and he gets a servant and the head of the Museum of Manhattan. And that guy is Janusz, a guy who has a crush on Dana. But unfortunately for that fool, he doesn't have her. He doesn't have her himself. She's not interested in him. But it still doesn't change that when Vigo makes a command, this fool just suddenly blindly followed him out of nowhere. Didn't question him or anything. What is wrong with this old man? Does he got a brain loose or something? Because I seriously think he was in need of some therapy, talking with a painting. Oh, but he was smart to know it seemed he didn't have a choice. Because he was right, he didn't have a choice. This painting had powers that he gave to Vigo, such as him being a ghost, laser having eyes to light the way through things. An interesting thing for a painting. Anyhow, in the end, this painting, also Vigo, had aliases because he was not a very popular person. And if he's not a popular person, that means even I have a problem with him. And rightfully so. He was known as Vigo the Cruel, Vigo the Despised, Vigo the Unruly, Vigo the Torturer. This guy had some serious problems, but somehow, and how he died, he was murdered by many people in the world in all sorts of multiple ways. Sickness. But I still find it strange how it was him who was causing all this problem, such as when the Ghostbusters were investigating what was going on under that tunnel. As I mentioned earlier, it was Winston, Egon, and Ray all in that tunnel, and that truly brought out the horror scenes that brought out for this film, and that's what truly drew me in, because that's where the horror went to a different level compared to the prequel. That was one of the only things I'd say the sequel got good on it there, because they even had a haunted train go right through Winston. Scary stuff. But eventually, that growing slime kept growing because of all the negative energy thrown throughout New York, that eventually it popped out, and so began the terror of a swarm of ghosts like it did in the first film. And finally, knowing that there was nothing to do, hummed the Ghostbusters as they must fight their way in through a mold of jello covering the Museum of Art. Unfortunately, the only way to do that was through the positive power. And the only way they knew New York could feel positive energy was through none other than Lady Liberty herself. Yes, guys, Lady Liberty joins us in saving the world. I must also know to look for her if ever we must need positive energy. I will look to Lady Liberty and bring her alive as well. And yes, guys, I saw it too, that she was basically a replacement for the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man. But it still doesn't change how interesting that was. And now, without her, they wouldn't have made it inside the museum and stopped Vigo, as he was trying to become the vessel of Oscar. He wanted to take Oscar's body and be reborn again. But oh no, that was not going to happen, where the Ghostbusters came and kicked his butt. And all is well in the world, and the world had been saved again. A true great scene indeed. Now in mind, guys, like I said, this film did have its problems. The repeat of things, and I noticed them as well. But I still give this film a 7 out of 10, and an okay spot point. A good spot point to be exact. And I would love for you all to see it and remember it yourself. But now, having said that, it is time to end this film, ladies and gentlemen. Now that I am done with the Ghostbusters, I will next go into one of Tim Burton's famous movies, that being The Nightmare Before Christmas. And I am truly looking forward to that one. Now, having said that, if you people enjoy the video, I ask that you click the like button, subscribe to the channel, and do hit that bell icon to be notified of when the next video will arise. And until then, the Vigilante is out, and we will see you again on Mega Halloween Mixer!